For years, I'd look at the map of Alaska in awe of its size and its remoteness. I'd been obsessed with visiting national parks for years, and out of the 60 US national parks, 8 of them were in Alaska. However, looking at Alaska's map left me perplexed. How the hell would I get to all 8 of Alaska's national parks? 5 out of the 8 had no roads, and 4 of them were visited by less people in a year than an average Walmart gets in a week. There's no tour that you can book to visit them all. It would require a real adventure. But isn't that what Alaska's all about? This is a story about a 2-year journey to visit all 8 of Alaska's national parks.
We just hiked for like 3 miles up a mountain. Well, we've been walking through the forest for like over an hour, and it's been very shady and very rainy, and then all of a sudden we just walked out into this wide open expanse, and it's so bright and so refreshing. I see a giant glacier in the mountains.
The Mendenhall Glacier gives us our first glimpse of the Alaskan terrain and its quickly changing weather. From Juneau, a hop on a plane, bus, and boat get us to Glacier Bay National Park. A glacially carved bay of southeast Alaska is home to a variety of life, bustling with activity. Enormous Alaskan sea lions can be seen sunbathing on islands. The sea lions seen here have been unsuccessful or are too immature to find females on the outer edge of the bay and congregate here on South Marble Island.
Oh yeah, it's there. Okay.
Seabirds can be seen throughout the bay, making their homes on the cliffs of the bay's many islands.
A big brown bear fishing in the stream. And I think there's another one. Big brown bear. Very exciting.
Say bear. Did you say very exciting?
Very exciting.
As we get closer to the glaciers in the north, icebergs start to dot the bay that have fallen off from glacial calving. The glaciers that make up the namesake of the park stand 200 feet high and are constantly moving and calving. To put that into perspective, that's taller than Disney's Cinderella Castle.
This looks cool. Alright, I'll try to act natural. You ready?
Yes.
I can't. Found some orca whales.
So close. So close.
After a boat ride back to Juneau, we hop on a plane and head north to the least visited national park in the country. Gates of the Arctic isn't just remote, it's enormous. At over 7 million acres of land, it's roughly the same size as Switzerland, but with only 282 permanent residents. But after our guide cancels, our trip is in doubt. So we had our plans change a little bit yesterday, and the Gates of the Arctic tour was canceled. So we have been chasing down a flight to Fairbanks today, seeing if we can charter our own plane. And we went to the very last stop, and sure enough, we have a chance.
We walked in there and said, can we charter our own plane? And they're like, it's gonna be like $1,500 at least. And we're like, fine, find us a pilot.
We're going straight to the Gates of the Arctic ourselves. We don't need no tour group.
No? We're gonna go see some polar bears.
Well, let's hope we don't see any polar bears. We're gonna go there, fly in, stay a couple hours, then fly back. And with no notice, we grab our stuff and head up to north of the Arctic Circle to the gates of the Arctic National Park.
I'm gonna be co-pilot for this afternoon, so everybody please sit down and buckle your seatbelts and get ready for a bumpy ride.
If you veer off to the right of the airplane, you'll see Kennecott Pass. It's the only village inside the park and only accessible by plane. Looks like it's been getting a fair amount of snow already, which isn't too uncommon for August, but it'll make it pretty hard to get to soon.
We land in a small mountain-locked village called Anitukvik Pass.
A little chilly.
A little chilly.
Tidbit. Just another August afternoon in the mountains.
We're finally here. We just got off a very bumpy plane ride. Got to go through some amazing mountain passes, and we're here. I feel like I've been dreaming of this place of 200 people in the middle of the Arctic. Unbelievable. Let's go explore it. Let's see what's here.
We head to the ranger station and surprise the ranger who hasn't seen anyone all week and wasn't sure he'd see any more people this season.
Not at all. The date I haven't. You're the first guys in here today.
Oh, really? How many people come to this park?
It depends on how you're counting them.
How many people come through this station? You think like annually?
A couple hundred.
To get to the park, you just leave the small town and quickly enter a valley surrounded by giant, snowy, and jagged mountains.
This place is awesome. I don't know what else to say. It's absolutely beautiful, and I don't think I'll ever be in a place like this. It's so cool. It's so friggin' cool.
There's a pretty good wind chill right now. It feels kind of like knives hitting you in the face because it's really, really cold.
3 hours later, we leave Gates of the Arctic in the small town of Anitukvik, heading off to board the train south to our next stop, Denali National Park. Cutting through the rugged Alaskan wilderness, this quick 120-mile train ride southwest of Fairbanks to Denali is home to an abundance of interior wildlife, like a female moose chewing on some shrubs, shoehorn hares, and red squirrels getting a few more things ready for the winter. If you go a little deeper in the trails and look over the lake, you can see beavers putting their finishing touches on a dam. We enter the park just as the leaves are turning and right before the winter takes grasp.
So we're in Denali National Park.
So this park has some amazing wildlife, whether it's bears, moose, ptarmigans, you name it. This park has some of the best animals of any national park you'll ever see.
Grizzly bears, also known as North American brown bears, are seen in the distance foraging for a few more meals before the snow arrives.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome picture. Yeah.
Although known as carnivores, they have the diet of omnivores and eat both plants and animals of various sizes. The roads through the park aren't for the faint of heart, often windy, rugged, and narrow. Luckily, you won't be the one driving, as only the national park is allowed to traverse the roads. At mile 66, we stop at the visitor center and get an amazing view of the massive Mount Denali. Formerly known as Mount McKinley, the mountain is so large the top is rarely seen below the clouds as it blocks the weather systems. From base to tip, Mount Denali is the largest mountain on Earth, stretching nearly 3.5 miles into the sky. To put that into perspective, here's a person. Here's a person next to the Empire State Building. It takes 14 Empire State Buildings stacked base to tip to reach the height of Mount Denali. It takes nearly 3 weeks to climb to the top of the mountain. But I found that out from Google, not from experience. Nearly 400 miles south lays Kenai Fjords, the last national park we would visit this year. We hop on the train outside Denali, and despite our early luck with weather, we are reminded quickly that we are in the heart of the area's rainy season. We arrive late in Anchorage and take an early morning car rides towards Seward, Alaska, gateway to Kenai Fjords, to meet up with our kayaking tour. As the sun comes out from the early morning rain, a bald eagle marks the entrance to the national park. The clouds from the rain still hug the ocean mountains as the sun rises over Kenai Fjords.
Hey Alex, do you see those fjords? Fjords! Fjords! So annoying! So annoying. This is my favorite so far.
The fjords are home to many seabirds, including my personal favorite, the tufted and horned puffins. Weighing as much as 1,500 pounds, the stellar sea lions can be found huddling together not too far from the seabirds perked atop the fjords.
Looking for a giant humpback whale. He's one of the stragglers because the rest of them migrated down to Hawaii in the beginning of August.
See that? Bottle of water? It's his head. We've been calling this guy Pac-Man. This is super unusual behavior for a whale. We've only seen this guy do it, where they just hang out at the surface like with his mouth open.
Oh my god.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Typically when you see the whales, you only see like their back, maybe below, maybe their tail, like their fluke if they go down. You very, very rarely see the head.
It must be the Loch Ness monster, but...
Our boat turns and we enter Elias Bay, prepare our kayaks to head towards the Elias Glacier.
She's trying to turn, but she's being an asshole about it. Who's got the rudder? Can stop this car at any time.
Iceberg up ahead. Oh, actually, that's really... We're about a quarter of a mile from the giant glacier. It's been here for over 100 years.
We're getting close to the glacier right now, and it's starting to rain a lot, so can't really take a ton of video of it.
Actually, the landscape around it is really young. It's only about 200 years old, so all the trees, foliage is really small, and it's just starting out, whereas other parts in the landscape have been around for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and this is a really young island, so it's neat to see how it starts out.
We kayak in the rain around the small island of Slate and explore its many hidden nooks and caverns. We head back to the shores, officially conquering the first 4 national parks, before returning nearly a year later to finish our quest to 8. On the quest to Alaska to conquer the state of 8, we are going back to Alaska after nearly 300 days to finish our final 4 national parks. We're at Minneapolis Airport and on our way to Anchorage in Kobuk Valley. Kobuk Valley, like Gates of the Arctic, is north of the Arctic Circle. To get there, we require a stop in the small village of Kotzebue, a town bordering the Arctic Ocean and home to the never-setting midnight sun during the summer months. We get in a modified small propeller plane and head towards the super isolated Kobuk Valley. With our casually texting pilot. Flying over vast Arctic plains full of moose and caribou. The plane lands on the Kobuk Valley dunes, and we set off into the wilderness.
Well, we got 2 hours here in Kobuk Valley. We were dropped off without ever even getting the identification or the payment for the flight back. So I'm hoping that they come back. If not, this is a very tragic video that you guys will find in an SD card. But we just stumbled across some bear tracks in the sand. Not sure how old they are, but if it's any consolation, we are several days, maybe weeks to walk away from civilization.
I'm not kidding. Kobuk Valley is incredibly isolated, with no towns or roads for hundreds of miles in any direction. We are smack dab in the middle of nowhere. Never before in our lives have we been so far away from other people, making the whole park feel like our own.
So we walked on the sand dunes and stopped for a little picnic on the ridge, and then now we've just crossed over into presumably permafrost land, and it's very crunchy. Found the water.
We already knew it was there. We could see from the top of the fucking hill. Like, I mean, oh my god, there's a river. No fucking shit, there's a river. We're in Alaska, there's always a fucking river.
Lucky for us, our pilot returned at our pickup point, and we headed back to Anchorage to set off for our next stop, the land of the brown bear, Katmai National Park.
Can I fit better back there, or where would I fit better?
You're not gonna fit behind the pilot, maybe. I'll take one for the team. Get back here.
We're videoing that.
Taking off and landing on the water, our small seaplane flies from King Salmon over Naknek Lake to our campground in Katmai.
Just got off the most beautiful plane ride I've ever seen in my entire life. Got into right directly to the camp. We had to store our food.
Where's the big bag? There's food in it that we need to get.
Should we carry like one little backpack with like our wallets in
and then we have to go outside this electrical fence to Brooks Camp to actually get our bear orientation.
It's an electric fence. Dare you to touch it?
Then we'll be like officially like, you know, able to move around the park and learn how to defend ourselves. But first we have a half mile to walk there without actually knowing how to defend ourselves.
It is quite a thing. Let's see where we're at.
Warning noise is especially important where visibility is limited. Bears can be very difficult to spot in dense forest or tall grass, where they like to bed down for a rest at midday.
Although famously known for its bears, the park's beauty is unmatched. With abundant wildlife like the trumpeter swan, the white-crowned sparrow, various mallards, the water-loving whimbrel looking for a snack, the red-breasted merganser guiding her young, and of course the state bird of Alaska, the
Mosquitoes. It's like a swarm. They're everywhere. We were trying to put the tents away, and they were like...
As beautiful as Katmai is, we were there to see brown bears, and evidence of bears is everywhere around Katmai. But where were they?
We saw a bear. We were on the little viewing platform thing, and all of a sudden I heard Alex just gasp, like...
Basically just like, we know this bear is coming up the river, so we just ran and sprinted to go see the bear. And then we saw Kelly run up towards us.
There's a bear!
Got a few great shots of it because it was like right here.
That bear is moving upriver, or he's being low-hanging tree.
We just saw a sub-adult brown bear walking right next to us underneath the platform, and it was really, really exciting. It's the closest that we've seen one.
Adult brown bears can weigh as much as 1,000 pounds and be as long as 10 feet. So we safely stayed in our elevated platforms to watch the bear from a distance. The sightings of our first wild brown bear so close was adrenaline pumping and got our whole group a little excited.
He just like stood by the water for a few minutes and then just like plopped down. And he's just like laying with his paws in the bay. It was the coolest thing that's ever happened.
See this big old juvenile bear.
A sub-adult?
The water.
A sub-adult.
A sub-adult bear.
And everybody's like, oh, that's a small one. He's
know,
so
we're like,
scraggly. And we were like, this is the
scraggly.
biggest animal I've ever seen.
I know.
The real reason Katmai is a national park isn't because of the bears. It's because of a volcano that erupted in 1912, about a 46-mile bus ride from Brooks Camp in the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. The Yucak River Valley still had snow-capped mountains in June, as the park only just opened to the public after a long winter.
For the win at 10,000 Smokes, we took a very bumpy bus ride out here.
So we've just learned all about, back in 1912, there was a massive eruption, and this whole valley was covered in pyroclastic flow, and it just completely decimated everything. Now we're about to hike down to a little waterfall and see how deep the ash goes. Apparently it's like 50 feet where we're going.
We're here at the bottom of the Valley of 10,000 Smokes on a waterfall, and it's one of the most violent waterfalls I've ever seen. It's roaring. You can probably hear it, but it's a very unpredictable for being in such a close container. It just feels like it's ripping the earth apart, and you can actually see it. It's muddy, it's gritty, it's full of ash, and it is just tearing the earth apart. It is unbelievable to witness.
On the waterfall, you can see how smooth they are from just being bashed for hundreds and hundreds of years. They have like a smooth, sharp texture that goes all the way down. It kind of looks like a painting.
It's so hard to believe that we're in Alaska because I feel like we're at the Grand Canyon or something like
This
that.
place is just way cooler than we thought. Way cooler than we thought.
This is like nothing that we have seen so far in Alaska.
Yeah, it's
you have to admit that.
We arrive back in Anchorage and rent a car for our first big road trip of the journey up to Wrangell, St. Elias.
We are en route to Wrangell St. Elias National Park. It's about an 8-hour drive from Anchorage, kind of through the wilderness a little bit.
So we're about to go on the Wrangell St. Elias McCarthy Road, and the McCarthy Road, they graded it and they said it's basically just like the gravel's now like knives and there's high risk for flat tires. So we have to go very slowly over this really crazy road for about 60 miles. It could take several hours. We're just hoping right now we don't get a flat tire. We'll see.
We're driving down McCarthy Road and we found this bridge, and this national tour guide told us that there's a secret walkway under the bridge, but it's really hard to get to, so we decided to park and we found it. And now we are probably like 300 feet at least above the ground.
This is high up!
And we're about to get even steeper because there's a canyon that dips down.
The legendary 50-mile McCarthy Road presents amazing views and spectacles along the way.
There's a mama moose and 2 baby mooses.
When we get to the end of a very bumpy road in the middle of the park, we get out of the car, we have to go to a payphone. We call up this hotel in Wrangell, St. Elias that'll come and pick us up.
So walk across the bridge and they'll meet us there. Let's go.
After the untraditional check-in, we take a shuttle up to an untraditional town of McCarthy on even wilder roads we wouldn't even attempt if we could. McCarthy is a quirky western town, small enough that everyone just lets their dogs run free, but with enough personality to be worthy of the largest national park in the United States. Up the road from McCarthy lies Kennecott, the whole reason this area of the park exists. The picturesque copper mill built into the harsh landscape of the Elias mountain range, it was operational from 1911 through 1938 and mined over $200 million worth of copper. What remains of the mill is still tourable, but showing its age. So we grab our helmets and go explore the 14-story historic landmark. Proclaimed by Stephen Birch in 1902 to be the richest concentration of copper in the world, he spent the next 15 years securing funding for the mine and transportation to the mine. After 4 years of construction, the first train entered Kennecott, and with it came miners looking for new opportunities in Wrangell. Along with the miners came their families, bringing the town's population up to over 300. The mill itself is a technical marvel, full of 14 stories of complicated gears and pulleys meant to separate the copper from the dirt. The shakers worked by doing just that. Using a series of increasingly finer grates, the shakers would rattle the mined rocks so the copper, silver, and gold would separate into pure ore. The mill closed abruptly in 1938, and the workers were given only 24 hours notice to leave the town. From the window of the mill, you could see Root Glacier, a short 2-mile hike away from Kennecott. Yeah, this is supposed to taste like cucumber or fish, depending on the person.
probably taste of dead fish.
Cucumbers.
Cucumber or fish?
What?
Cucumber or fish?
Okay.
Cucumber. That's sweeter.
Hiking a glacier with normal boots would be pretty hard and pretty dumb, so we strapped on some crampons to give us extra grip.
Let's see.
We're on top of Root Glacier right now. Just got our shoes on. I'm gonna go try to see if we can find some neat glacier pools. But these are surprisingly comfortable to walk on. Makes you walk on anything, I guess. But these spikes make it very easy to walk on the glacier, and without it, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, it's dark.
Root Glacier is one of a slew of glaciers that cover over 1/3 of Wrangell St. Elias's 8 million plus acres of protected land.
I'm definitely not gonna die.
The landscape is constantly changing as cracks and movement mean every stream, lake, and waterfall we experience on the glacier will be unique.
Let me know a taste.
It really does taste delicious.
The stunning blue glacial pools, surrounded by the harsh peaks of the Wrangell mountain range, leave you feeling almost alien on our own planet.
Okay, so we just hiked like 8 miles, and because we were hiking so fast, the tour guide took us to a place where they don't typically take clients. So behind me is this giant waterfall, and just a week ago, this whole thing was filled with water, but it all drained in something called Molan, where the glacier just kind of sucks it under, and it goes all the way down the hill to the lake. So off the beaten path and really, really, really cool.
The bumpy terrain of the glacier meant the only way to really find anything was by exploring it by foot and accidentally running into something new and beautiful. And with glacial covering that spans an area larger than the state of Rhode Island, it meant that there is plenty to explore.
There's a medium-sized Mulan right there, which is basically a death hole that leads under the glacier, and if you fall in it, you die. But I'm gonna throw a rock in it instead.
After hours of discovering new pools, streams, and ice caves, we set our mind on looking for a glacial canyon we could walk through.
Ice is harder, but it's
Definitely
narrower.
less of an awkward angle.
Yeah.
But after trying to straddle our way through it, we came to the realization that the only way to walk through it would be getting wet and getting real cold.
That's gonna be just as hard, right? Makes sense.
If you don't
It's
you're
ice.
gonna have to come back out the way you came. If you have your spikes. Oh my god, it's cold. My feet are gonna fall off. It hurts. Now it hurts really hard.
Talk about it.
Walking in a crevasse in a glacier, and it's really freaking cold. I thought it felt good, but now it hurts. Oh, fuck, it hurts.
It really hurts.
It really hurts.
Getting those shoes wet?
Yep.
Are you gonna make it to the other side?
Hey, Alex.
Yeah.
How far does this go?
We have 2 options. You can climb out up cover.
Huh?
How far does this go down?
You coming?
That was awesome. Cold as shit though, but woo! And I can feel like puddles in the shoes, so that was a smart move.
It's real cold. It's just a numbing, death rattling cold, I'd say. Nothing worse than that.
Well, it's really cold, but I'm going through it right now. Holy shit.
Don't stab yourself.
Yeah, I already did that. It hurt.
boy.
Gross.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
Smells gross
You
too.
can drink from that sock.
With 7 parks down, only one remained, Lake Clark National Park. Our little propeller plane departed early in the morning from Anchorage into the cloudy sky over jagged, volcanic, snow-topped mountains.
Holy crap! Those mountains are enormous!
We land in a town called Port Allsworth, nestled entirely inside the national park, and head off into the trails.
Jen is about to take a step into the last park of the 8-park challenge, Lake Clark.
Woo! It's a pretty impressive waterfall.
Not only is that water really blue, that is a really powerful waterfall. It's causing like waves in a place that, you know, it's no longer than 100 feet wide. And there's like waves as if it was like the size of Lake Michigan. That is a powerful waterfall.
It was a blissful scene to take in and have some lunch as we reflected on our journey. The tall aspen trees and the wild flowers blowing in the wind made for a peaceful experience of Lake Clark.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
Why do I have to yell on camera?
Because you can do it. You're so good at it. It doesn't even make sense. You have to do it.
La 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 lay or lay or lay.
We stayed the night at the farm lodge in Port Allsworth as the finality of our journey became more and more real. We saw the wildest parks in the wildest state on the wildest journey we've ever been on.